Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Yet Another Movie Podcast, the movie podcast where we talk about anything relating to movies or whatever else we feel in the mood talking about today, even though all we have talked about is movies. It'd be a little weird to change it up now. I'm Shane Wallach, and I'm with
Sean Higgins.
And today we're doing a little short podcast. Now, there are going to be a couple of these because we just wanted to do a couple little short videos talking just about our opinions of a couple movies. So
a couple new release films.
Yes. So today we're, as you read the title, we're doing Incredibles and Incredibles 2. So this will be reviewing both of those. Again, it won't be super in-depth. We're just going to kind of go over our basic opinions of the movie. The reason why is we have a lot of things to catch up on, and we want to bring you guys the next big podcast we have planned that are coming up.
Yeah.
So we got to get to those. But as for right now,
we wanted to do a few short ones to tide you over, basically.
Correct. Yes. So starting off, we're going to talk about each movie, basically just go through what we each think of it, and then anything that we personally really liked or disliked in each one, and then sort of explain why. Okay. So obviously, pretty easy stuff. So starting out with The Incredibles. So a little background on the movie that I know of, if you want me to say.
Can start. Sure.
Movie was released in 2004. It had followed in the huge success of Finding Nemo, the unexpected success. It's funny, I love the story Andrew Stanton tells, where he's like, everybody was excited about The Incredibles. That's all anyone at Pixar cared about.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then there's Andrew and his fish movie. You know? And it turned out that Finding Nemo became the highest grossing animated movie of all time. Yes. And it was huge. And The Incredibles came out, and it was also huge. So Pixar really found, because they kind of lost their way a little bit. They made Toy Story, and then they're like, what do we do? Because they tried to make Toy Story 2 direct-to-video, and they're like, oh, that would be a stupid idea. Let's not do that. And then they make one of their worst movies, A Bug's Life, and Monsters, Inc., which is fine, but not one of their best movies. So they kind of got a little rocky. And then I'd say right after Finding Nemo is kind of when they righted themselves again and made a series of good movies, right?
Yeah.
So with Incredibles, the idea was to make a family superhero movie dealing with what if superheroes were illegal. That's like the number one premise, is like, what if superheroes were illegal? How would a family of superheroes deal with that kind of situation? And that's the basic premise of The Incredibles. And it's an interesting premise, I will say, instantly. Of course, it's kind of been done before. It's ripping off X-Men a little bit.
It's definitely ripping off X-Men. It's also ripping off the Fantastic Four as far as just a family group.
Yeah, but they're not like a family per se. I'd say the Fantastic Four, and I'd say X-Men is way more. I guess
that's true.
X-Men is way more, because X-Men deals with superheroes being illegal.
No, that's definitely true. That is what
the
X-Men
same
is
theme is
at
present
its core.
in X-Men. Yeah, so that's kind of the problem I'd have with the premise, but you know what? Let it be its own thing, and they do things that differentiate it. So, yeah, you want to jump in, Sean?
Well, yeah, I wanted to also add, one of the things this movie was also known for is Pixar up to this point had a lot of trouble animating humans. Well, 3D animation in general. Most humans have this uncanny valley look to them, which, if you don't know what the uncanny valley is, essentially it's animation or other things that are like made, sculptures, whatever, that are meant to look human, but the parts of it are distorted or...
Whoa! Okay, I think you're explaining this a little.
All right, you try.
Okay, so there's a graph of imagine a line graph on the XY axis. So x-axis would be, let me just say it this way: the closer you get to human looks, the cuter something gets. To a point, there's a drop off. So what happens is, you know, like a teddy bear versus a slug. You know, the teddy bear is going to be cuter. You know, mammals we tend to find cute versus amphibians, and so on and so forth. And you get closer and closer to humanity until there comes a point where something looks almost human, like really close, but just off. And then that's called the uncanny valley, which is this point where it actually has the opposite effect. It looks scary, creepy, distorted, and like... basically unpleasant to look at.
Horror movies love to use that. For
zombies.
Villains. Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Whole genre. You know, mutants, other things. You know, there are several movies that utilize this to effect, And then, of course,
The Thing.
if you ever
If
see
you've ever
those,
seen that film.
if you ever seen those videos of those really lifelike robots, you probably noticed they're kind of creepy. You
Yes.
wouldn't want them around you. That's what that effect is. So now continue.
Okay. Yeah, so this was notable for finally, they probably for just knowing that they needed to make sure they looked good, they really, really went for it, and they made the humans not look terrible. They actually look like
Because they made them cartoony.
good. Well, yes, they still obviously
That
are
is
cartoony.
the answer.
But
It's not like they made this CGI actors that look
well,
photorealistic.
no, of course not. We weren't there yet, and we can talk about the animation and whether or not it holds up. I think it's good, and it was great for the time. It gets better in Incredibles 2. That is one of my, I would say, problems with the first Incredibles movie.
All right, but just sum up your
That being said,
opinion.
I really like The Incredibles. It is my fifth favorite Pixar movie after the Toy Story trilogy and Finding Nemo. I really, really like this film. I like the concept. I like the characters. I'm going to get into more detail as we talk, but I really enjoy this film.
Mm-hmm.
I think between us, I'm more into this franchise than you, but that's a safe thing to say. I'll just speak for you on that if you want to disagree.
Yeah. Okay. So my thoughts on The Incredibles. Yeah, it's got a lot of problems, and it's definitely not amazing, like you would claim. I think the movie is held back by several issues I have with it. However, it does do things I like, and it does enough to say it's a good movie. It does have characters I care about, and a story that's compelling enough to keep me invested in through the runtime. So yeah, I agree with some of the positives. I will say the animation does not hold up. It is some of the ugliest stuff I've ever seen from Pixar's in this movie. I think it's because they got so ambitious, almost too ambitious, where they tried to tell this huge story, and like some of the things just look like budget television these days. It does not look like Pixar. It's not like what you think, because it's too bad it follows from Finding Nemo, which is a huge technical achievement, and they really made this environment look really real. And then they go to this human world and like, we got to do a city, we got to do all this other stuff, and it's like we got to make it look all real. And what I say by real is just like really nice, holds up. And it doesn't. Like the cities look really plain, really blocky, really recycled, and it's too bad because some of the other animation, especially when they're using their superpowers, is really good and it looks great. All of the stuff with the superpowers, especially with Holly Hunter and Elastigirl's arms flailing all over the place, that's really neat. And seeing Mr. Incredible use his super strength or anything else looks great. But there are other things that look less great. That's my point on those. In terms of my other problems with the movie, it's really cliched, and that's the problem. Like, because it's like this is kind of a cool premise, but then it does things that you're rolling your eyes. Like, there's the villain syndrome, who's just that maligned young person that becomes evil later in life, and it's like, okay, we've seen that before. The kid who turns evil because of something that happened to them when they were a kid. How many times has that been done? So that's a little iffy, and some of the drama with the family. If you've watched X-Men, if you are aware of comic books, you're gonna have seen this before. This is not flipping the table in superhero genre. The thing that it does though, and that I like, is first of all the voice cast does a very good job. I really like basically the entire family. I'll do a really good job. Brad Bird as what's her face is also really funny.
I'm blanking on her name now. The woman who makes the costumes.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
E. I can't believe I'm forgetting it because I just saw this.
God. Yeah, it's...
Here, Edna. Thank you, Edna Mode. Yeah, that's funny. It's just a funny performance.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Robert. It's just a funny little thing. So that has that. It has some good humor, I'd say too. It's not definitely nearly the funniest Pixar movie, nor is it nearly the most dramatic. So it's kind of in the middle.
I understand that. I got into the drama of the family though. Like there are great dramatic moments. Like for example, this moment that is sure on the nose, but it's such a moment for adults because kids aren't going to really understand this. And it's a moment when, blanking on names all over the place today. Sorry guys.
Wait, what are you talking about? Which character?
Elastigirl. Well,
Did you forget their character's name?
I'm blanking. No, I was trying to say her normal name, what she's known by, but I just said screw it, go for the superhero name.
What's her normal name? You just looking? Wait, what? No.
Yeah.
You said you knew that.
Helen Fudge. I was trying to think Helen Parr, and it wasn't coming to my brain for some reason.
Oh.
Sorry. Anyways, that was not supposed to be a thing.
All right.
Helen Parr, she finds a hair on one of her husband's jackets, and then the phone rings, and she picks up, and a woman's talking, and it's very on the nose, but I like that little add-in. It's like, because she believes that her husband might be cheating on her, possibly, with another woman, and it, that feels right for what the family's going for. Bob, Mr. Incredible, wants, he feels cooped up in life. It's a midlife crisis story, which, has been done, but it's never been done with superheroes in this way. I can't think of one, at least. Not in this exact way. And I really liked that. I thought that was kind of unique, especially for a family movie, for a movie for kids.
Yeah, I think the first half of this movie is much stronger than the second half, because it has a compelling setup. It has interesting things to it. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's like, oh, this seems really cliched. Everything that plays out pretty much exactly the way you'd think it would. And the ending action just isn't nearly as exciting, even though you get to see the family together. But, again, we've kind of seen all that before, So it's just, nothing stands out too much for you to say this is a great movie. I always think with these animated movies, was there a compelling reason to make this an animated film? And I never saw it with Incredibles. Does it stand out enough to say this is worth animating? Because I don't want it to be like, how Illumination does it, or a lot of the other studios where they'll make them all animals, but they live in a city, and it's like, why are they animals? Why isn't this just any normal thing? And the only one that actually worked was Zootopia, because it's part of the story.
Right.
The whole point of the movie is because they're animals. Unlike Sing, where there's no point at all. So it's like that. So, it's like, I need for them to be a reason, and I just don't think it's as compelling as it should have been why this was animated. But again, the setup's good enough for me to keep my investment up the whole movie. I like the characters enough to keep me compelled. I think the voicing is really done well. Especially Craig T. Nelson pulls off this depressed sound to him that I really liked that performance, and I like that he seems like he's over the hill, and it's kind of an interesting thing to look at. But again, we've seen movies that do that, and it's like, we've seen better movies that do it, and it's like, I'd say in terms of I'd rather watch Dark Knight Rises. They do some of those themes, and or Logan, they do those themes, and it's like those are better.
Sure.
But I'm not hating on Incredibles. I'm just saying that it's rare that I would sit down and think, I want to watch The Incredibles tonight, Especially even in Pixar's lineup. I would go to a lot of other films first. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I understand that. And there are, there are movies that have obviously done these things better. But just judging this movie on its own, I personally really enjoy it. I really get into the family dynamic. And I like the villain. I actually like Syndrome as the villain. I think he's kind of a tragic, but kind of you kind of deserve. It's weird. I'm of two minds about Syndrome. It's it's tragic. I felt bad for him because he was just this kid who looked up to supers and Mr. Incredible especially, and he ignored him. But at the same time, it's at the end, it's he honestly comes off like a fanboy, and I mean that in the most insulting way possible, internet fanboys who are so entitled, and they're just you ruined blank property, make my movie the way I want it. They just can't separate their childhood or their fandom, and that's exactly what Syndrome is. I think it captures it really well. It was ironic because I'm not going to get into it here, obviously, because it's Twitter drama, but there's a lot of Twitter drama because of what's been going on with The Last Jedi and people wanting to remake The Last Jedi and stupid crap like that, and what's happened to some of the actresses. And I watched this movie around that, recently, and that stuff was going on. And I was like, oh my gosh, Syndrome is so much like these annoying people on Twitter that I just want to.
I guess I don't really see the connection because he's just upset that he was rejected by his idol. and that's why he turns into a.
Well, he's an attention seeker, that's for sure, and that's like a lot of these fanboys.
I don't see him that way. I just see him as wanting to be Mr. Incredible, and Mr. Incredible rejects him, and therefore he feels left alone and embittered by that, and then becomes what he becomes, the villain. I don't see him like you seem to be painting him as very negative. I don't think the film's trying to do that. I think it's trying to make him a sympathetic villain, but he's too annoying for me to be a sympathetic villain.
No, that's what I said. I think he's both sides of the coin. I think he is sympathetic at times, but then he also goes.
I just don't
to
think
a degree
I don't
where you're
see
just like, oh
the
my
attention
God,
seeker.
yeah, I feel bad for you, but
Yeah,
shut
but
up.
I just want to see the attention seeker part because I don't really see that. I see him as just being
Well, there's the
immature
literal he
and-
unleashes a robot into the city and goes in just to stop the robot, which of course he can't do.
because well
But
he
did that-
has an explanation though. He explains his evil plot. He wants to stop the robot so he can look like a hero.
That's attention seeking.
But
Yeah.
it's the point was to get heroes banned again forever. That was his goal, if I remember correctly.
No, I don't. I think you're misremembering that because that doesn't make sense. Why, if like superheroes are already banned and there's no movement to bring them back, why even go through all the trouble? That doesn't make sense.
Hold on, I have to look into this because again it's been a
If
couple
you're-
weeks, but
yeah, if you're right, then that doesn't make any dang sense.
well, I thought there was more to his plot, but keep talking while I.
No, I see it as more like he wants to be the big hero. He wants to be Mr. Incredible still. He's obsessed with that idea. And so, yeah, he puts this robot out there, has it, stomp around town so
Yeah.
he can stop it.
No, I mean I remember that, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think, but I just don't see the attention-seeking part of it. Except
You wouldn't call that attention seeking?
No, in his beginnings when he was a kid.
Oh, sure. No, maybe he was.
Because I thought that was the reason.
No,
I thought you were
okay.
talking about the reason he became a superhero.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. He was probably like a lot of these more crazy out there fans who probably was more of just a super obsessed fan, but then something inside of him snaps and he's rejected by,
Yeah, well,
his
I just think my major problem with him is that he was like, he wasn't sympathetic enough for me to care, and like his motivations are fairly limited, in terms of scope and intrigue. So it's just like there's not a good emotional core to the story, and I just don't. That's why I look for it in these superhero movies, So.
All right, that's fair. I found emotional core in this movie because of the family, but yeah, I can understand if you didn't.
I think it's limited. I didn't say there's none.
No, I know. I don't want to misconstrue what you said. No, I understand. I just got more into it than you, I think, is a big part of it. And, I understand, like, you're tired of seeing it. And I'm more into comic book movies. And, yeah, I think that's obvious. And I'm also more into Pixar. Like, these are amalgam of genres that you just don't get into. Family movies and Pixar, or superheroes. And that's fine.
In general,
yeah. No, I'm not saying you never can, obviously. But
just being careful there.
no, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to add, or?
No, we can move on to Incredibles 2 if you want. I agree with basically everything you said about the animation and the voice acting. Voice acting good, animation not as much.
So let's move on to Incredibles 2, because yeah.
Incredibles 2.
But again, Incredibles is a good movie. I just
1
want to
year,
establish that.
yep. So 14 years later, took them 14 years in that span of time. They got 3 Cars movies out and Brave. Got your priorities there, Pixar. Okay, I will say I actually do kind of like the first Cars movie, and Brave was just kind of, it was okay. But anyway, they finally got this movie, Incredibles 2, that everyone was clamoring for. And one big positive right off the bat, the animation is way better, which you expect it to be, considering it's been 14 years. You would hope that's the case.
Yeah, the cities look much better. Everything looks much better. Yeah, it's really well done, and it looks great today. And yeah,
I would absolutely hope that would happen after 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of my big negatives, now, we're kind of in an inverse. One of my big negatives is part of the story. It is specifically the villains. It is the same setup for the villains. As soon, I mean, I don't...
Except it's dumb, because it's just like, you don't care about the villains, or like, they have no real
right.
personal investment to them, and they do that. I hate these cliches. These movies gotta stop doing it. The evil villain explaining their evil plot. Can we please stop doing that cliche? It's 2018. Like, I understand maybe in 2004 when they did it, right? It's 2018. Don't have the villain explain their evil plan. Never. It's such lazy writing, and I really it almost wants me to just instantly take away points for the movie just because they did that, because it is such a cliche. It is so annoying when a character just for no reason, not even where there's a reason within the story for them to explain what they're doing. No reason whatsoever. Hey, I just captured you. I'm going to kill you. But before I do, let me explain to you my evil plan.
Back in the 60s, when The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly came out, they made fun of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
If you're going to shoot. Don't talk. I mean, come on. Like, you're right. No, I totally agree. It is overplayed. It's like, come on. I understand explaining a villain, but guess what? It's called smart writing. Please, find another way to do it. Like, show us why they're evil. Like other Pixar movies, Toy Story 3. Like, you get why the villain is the way he is, because they have this great flashback, montage sequence that sure is completely copied from Toy Story 2 for other reasons, but it still works. Like, there's other ways to do it,
Yeah, and I just thought the overall main story to be pretty disjointed. I mean, you have Mr. Mom, Incredibles. Incredibles 2, half of it is Mr. Mom with Mr. Incredible. The other half is typical, superhero working for people who might have ulterior motives with a fake villain. It's like, okay, fair enough. And making Mrs. Incredible the focus, and Elastigirl, whatever you want to call her. Making her the focus of the main superhero plot, that's fine. But it's like, we've kind of seen this stuff before. Again, it's like, it's not doing anything really that new, and even the way it's doing it is not really that interesting. It's just sort of like, it's okay, it's all right, and that's kind of what I felt the whole time. Where it was just kind of just not almost bored the whole time. It was just like almost on the edge of bored. Now I know we dogged the movie a bit, so I will give some positive besides the animation. The thing I liked about this movie the most, and why I ended up giving it a 3, which I know is pretty serious, from 2.5 to 3 stars, is Jack Jack, because he's just hilarious.
I love Jack Jack,
and every time he's on screen, I just love every scene. So it's like, if there are that many scenes that I just absolutely enjoy and adore, I have to give the movie credit for that, and that's what I was doing. And because it's technically proficient and all that, I'm giving it a lot of points for those stuff. But just all that stuff with Jack Jack, because Jack Jack has powers, and for some reason they're blind in the first movie and don't see Jack Jack in the air.
They say at the end of the movie, I went back and looked. They have Bob Parr after Jack Jack has been kidnapped by Syndrome, and then Syndrome dies and drops Jack Jack. Like, he starts to fly or float down on his own, whatever he does, and then Bob picks him up and goes, "You have powers." So he knows he has powers.
Wait, he said that in the first movie?
Yes, he did. If I'm wrong, please comment. I swear to God this happened. Can I just...
That's in the first movie?
Film? Yes. At the end. Okay. There he is.
I don't remember that, but I could see them doing that.
So that confused me the whole time. I was like, don't you know?
Yeah. Like, do you have dementia? Or
this does take place literally right after the first movie. It starts with the mole
3 months
attacking.
later.
Well, yes, it starts with the mole attacking, and then it skips to 3 months later.
Yeah.
Which I actually didn't mind that, I will say. Some people have complained about that, like, why aren't they older and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, you could have gone that route, but I was fine with it, I didn't really need the mole to be explained. That was unnecessary. That was just a silly joke at the end. The Underminer is his name.
Which was, there were some funny moments in the movie too, and I'll give it credit. Like with the Underminer sequence, there was some funny stuff, and yeah, I think the humor is always in Pixar, and they do a good job, and that also does keep the movie fun. But in terms of the serious plot, I never cared. I never really cared. I was never that invested. I just like Jack Jack doing shenanigans, and I like the funny stuff, and that's about all I really care about.
I like the Mr. Mom stuff. I was more invested in the plot, even though the villain was weak as hell.
Hold on 1 second. Have you seen Mr. Mom?
No, it made me really want to see Mr. Mom.
Then that's why, because you haven't seen it before. But I'm saying it's been done before, and
Okay.
it's been done better.
Yeah, of course.
So, from someone who's seen it before, as I have, same with Mrs. Doubtfire, this stuff has been done.
Okay,
you know?
that's true. This is Mrs. Doubtfire.
And it's been done better. So that's the problem. It's like, and it does Incredibles 2 do anything new and interesting or different with it? Well, the kids have superpowers, but that's just a mild conceit because the kids always cause trouble. That's the point of these movies. You know, the kids cause trouble. Doesn't matter how they do it, it's still the same thing. And nothing really changes from that. Half of the movie is just that. And it's like, yeah, is it always... It's not uninteresting. It's funny at times. And like I said, everything with Jack I like. But it just seems a little bit lazy to me. It seems like they were like trying to think of an idea for a sequel, and they were just like, I don't know, let's jam in like Elastigirl doing this, and then we'll do Mr. Incredible doing this. And the end result is you don't actually get to see the team together mostly at all until the very end of the movie.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, that is a disappointment for this movie, because you have this whole first movie that's all about them coming together as a family unit, and then they're barely
And
together.
they kind of rewind on that, too. They're like, we're not going to have the kids use their powers again.
Right.
Which... Why did you backtrack on that? It's like you just kind of established this.
Yeah.
Why not have your kids help you out? And it's just annoying that they didn't do that. I don't know.
No, that is problematic. It did feel like, let's just rehash the first one. I agree. This had enough entertaining moments, though, especially Jack and Jack. I completely agree. Stole the show.
I'm just always going to remember Jack and the raccoon. I will never
Jack
forget that scene.
fighting a raccoon is just, it's worth to take a break.
It's really funny because like the way they set it up is Jack's watching this violent movie about like some robbers holding up a store and looks over and sees the raccoon like holding up the trash can and is like, that's the same thing. I gotta stop the raccoon.
It's amazing.
It's really funny how they do it.
No, yeah, it just unveils all these powers. He has like laser beams come out of his eyes, and like every superpower you could think of, Jack seems to have almost, and that's just a lot of fun. And because he's a baby, he's not in control of it, which is hilarious and entertaining immensely. Yeah, overall, this movie, I liked it. I agree with you, it has major problems. It is a huge step down from the first one, but I still recommend people check it out.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a huge step down from the first one. It is a step down, though, but there are things to like in it, and I understand why people like it so much. I just think I have a lot of expectations to these movies that most people don't have. I need something more than just fun action or cute animation, you know, to keep my investment going. Because, again, these are not my favorite kind of movies. So,
sure.
Yeah. Well, that's about our thoughts, you know. I don't think there's a lot more to talk about. I think
really
it just
isn't.
comes down to a matter of opinion. And if you like these kind of movies, I think you'll enjoy both Incredibles films. They're not bad.
Yeah.
They stretch the imagination. They just, if you're jaded by the superhero genre and you haven't seen Incredibles 2 yet, don't expect it to do anything different or new with it. Okay?
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
If you like Pixar, if you've been excited about an Incredibles 2 of that prospect, you'll have fun.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it yet somehow. But
well, yeah, by now you'd think you would have, but yeah, you'll have fun.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks guys for listening. Make sure to keep up because we're going to get more short ones done to catch up. And then we're going to do some long form stuff in a couple weeks. So keep an eye out for that because we do want to get caught up on all these movies so we can get these to you reasonable on time, like as the weekend is, you know, the movie coming out. But yeah, thanks again for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. And we appreciate the support. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.